Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today I'm going to be going over crafting in Last Epoch and kind of just explaining how you craft in the game. It's pretty simple, and I'd say it's probably the best ARPG crafting mechanic I've seen since you can do it all in one little area, and you can do it from anywhere in the game. As you can see, I'm not at a forge currently, and if I hit the F key, I can just bring up the forge and I can craft kind of on the fly. So I have an example item here. As you can see, it has 31 foraging potential. So foraging potential is basically the currency you use when crafting an item. It basically tells you how much you can craft on an item before it's done being crafted. An item with 0 foraging potential, let me see if I have any. Uh, yeah, I'll just grab this. An item with 0 foraging potential can no longer be crafted on. So as you can see, I cannot forge any more modifiers onto this item. It has no forging potential. So that is kind of what forging potential is. It's a currency spent when crafting on an item to upgrade it. Now, when using forging potential, you got to understand that each thing that you add onto an item removes a certain amount of forging potential from the item, and certain things can make or break an item very fast or very slowly. So I'm going to go over the glyphs first to explain what those do, and then we'll go past that into our glyphs. So runes first, then glyphs, and then I'll go over affix shards and kind of how that happens. So first thing you need to know is the rune of shattering is a good rune for removing any items and getting the affix shards off the item. So for instance, this says necrotic damage. If I wanted those necrotic damage shards for future crafting, I would use the Rune of Shattering. I'd shatter the item gets deleted, and I get 3 necrotic damage shards. So you get shards based on the modifier, and then number of shards based on the tier. Second is Rune of Refinement. Now, this item rerolls affixes on an item. So if I have 22% endurance on this third eye of endurance, as you can see, it's a tier 6, but it has a range between 20 and 24%, which means if I wanted to roll it, I can use the Rune of Refinement, and now you can see it has 23 endurance. So it actually went up by a point. So you can kind of min-max to an extent with this rune. Do keep in mind that runes do use forging potential. So as you can see, I lost 3 forging potential from that outcome. The rune of removal is very simple to explain. Basically, if you have an item with multiple modifiers on it, you can say, I don't want this chance to slow attackers, but I want uh, to keep the tier 6 mana and the tier 5 minion health. I could do one of two things. Um, the first thing is using a rune of removal. And the downside of using a rune of removal is it's random, which means you can lose a modifier you want. So there you go. I actually removed the one that I was saying I wanted to remove. Although this is just a test item, I don't really need to use this or plan on using it. But yeah, so that's what rune of removal does. Very simple. Rune of discovery adds random tier 1 affixes to all empty affix slots. So this has 2 open suffixes. Now, that means that there's 2 defensive or bottom side modifiers to the item that I can add. Now, if you're curious as to what uh, the difference between prefixes and suffixes are on an item, you can go ahead and add a modifier, and then you can click prefixes to see all the prefixes that can be added on an item, and then click suffixes to see all the suffixes on an item. Typically, suffixes are more defense oriented and prefixes are more offense oriented, although there are a few exceptions. So we'll use the Rune of Discovery here, and you can see it removed no foraging potential. So sometimes you get lucky and it doesn't cost anything. It can be between like 0 and 20 typically. Uh, and I got all my mods filled out. Next is the Rune of Shaping. Rune of Shaping rerolls all implicits. So as you can see, this item has plus 16 intelligence, which is actually quite high. 42% of mana spent gained as ward, and 14% increased mana regen. Those are the implicits to an item. If you hold the Alt key, you can see the range for the int is 12 to 18. The mana spent as ward is 26 to 42, so it's actually a max roll. And then 12 to 18 on mana regen. So if I use the Rune of Shaping, you can see now those numbers have changed. So that's what that does. Now, do keep in mind, this will never reroll the type of modifiers. It only rerolls the values. Next, we have Rune of Ascendance. I'm actually, since I have so few of these, I'm actually chasing a ring. I'm going to see if I have a ring. So we'll just use it on any item. Let's use it on Offhand Catalyst. No, let's use it on a relic. Okay. So Rune of Ascendance turns any item into a unique of that item type. So this, when I use the Rune of Ascendance here, it will turn this Mage Relic into a unique Mage Relic. It is completely random. Level doesn't matter. Base type beyond it being a Mage Relic doesn't matter. So say I were to use the Rune of Ascendance on a silver ring, it will outcome a ring of any kind. It could be a unique ruby ring. It doesn't have to be a unique silver ring that comes out. So we'll upgrade here. You can see I got a broken hilt. That's not even a mage relic. That's a relic, but it's not a mage relic. I mean, I'll never use that. But hey, I got it now. So, Rune of Ascendance, I mean, use them if you got them. There's no real reason to hold on to them. Last thing I got is the Rune of Creation. I dropped only one of these so far playing the campaign. I don't know how rare they are. I mean, obviously they're at least to some degree rare. I just have never used it. I haven't found a use for it. The best use I could say for it is duplicating rings. Do keep in mind you need leftover forging potential when the item is done to use this. See, I can't use it on this ring, but I can use it on this ring. It will copy it and it will remove all forging potential from both items. So use it wisely. Okay, following up, we have the glyphs. So glyphs can be used in tandem with runes on occasion and in situational basis. So, for instance, if I wanted to re-roll my affixes, I could use a glyph of hope to try and prevent it from spending any forging potential. So the glyph of hope basically has a 25% chance of not spending any forging potential when upgrading. And I think, but also with any outcome, right? Modifies the outcome of a craft. Yeah, so it could be any craft has a 25% chance of not spending forging potential. Basically, you want to use Glyph of Hope when you're doing anything, if possible, and you have them. Glyph of Chaos is, say, I have, let's do an example here. So right here, I have spell damage while channeling. Oh, well, I don't want spell damage while channeling. I want a different modifier. Uh, if you don't want to use a Rune of Removal and risk getting rid of a tier 7 lightning resistance, for instance, you can use the Glyph of Chaos and try your luck at rolling, because it costs 1 to 10 forging potential. So I'm going to go ahead and upgrade and reroll. And it actually down... Wait, was that a tier 4 or am I crazy? I'm going to have to look back and edit, post-edit. But, did it downgrade? It probably didn't downgrade. But yeah, so basically what Glyph of Chaos does is when you upgrade a modifier, it will change to a different modifier of the next tier up. So tier 1 modifier to a tier 2 level of Elemental Nova. I can upgrade that again. I actually hit something that I actually care about, but my helmet's just better already. So I got a crit success, which means no forging potential was spent, and I got an additional upgrade, which is super awesome when that happens. And I rolled into Fireball Pierce chance. So that's a good way of rolling for a modifier that you want if you are not trying to use a Rune of Removal and risk losing a good modifier or a modifier you want. Glyph of Order modifies the outcome of a craft when upgrading an affix. Prevents the roll of an affix within its range changing when it is upgraded. So basically what this will do is when you upgrade an affix, it will keep the roll value. So say you have a max roll tier 1 and you upgrade. So here we have a 43, so pretty high. I think if I upgrade this, yeah, you can see upgrade to 56 and 55. So it will try to hold the range and not roll down. And it also tells you what you're gonna get, which is kind of nice. So that's a good way of keeping your random rolls from uh, going downwards. And so if you get a high roll and you're trying to keep the high roll, that's a great way of doing that. And then we have Glyph of Despair, which can seal an upgrade. I get these occasionally. I'm not too worried about spending these. See what happens here. Maybe I'll seal this Fireball Pierce chance. Nope, I failed. So that has a 25% chance of sealing an affix on an item. As you can see here, I have fire resistance sealed on this ring, and that allows you to have a 5th modifier on the item. It's super powerful. It's something you want to go for if you can. And you want to do it on typically a tier 4 into tier 5 upgrade. But it depends. Sometimes if you're only looking for like a tier 3 of a specific modifier, but you don't want it to take up the slot and you're trying to save on forging potential, it might be better to use it on a low roll. Or if you really need the seal and like to the point of you need 100% for this item to seal, then it might be more important for you to have multiple chances at upgrading and rolling that glyph into a seal. So, like, I mean, I upgraded tier 4 to tier 5. If I had another glyph, I couldn't seal that because it's tier 5. It can't be upgraded any further. But if it was tier 2 and I upgrade with the glyph and it misses, and then I upgrade again and it misses, and then I upgrade again and it hits, like, it gives you more chances to actually land the seal. So it's something you have to kind of justify. Apart from that, it's very simple to understand the rest of the crafting. Based on your build, you pick out the modifiers you want, you add your glyphs if you need them, you add the affix. If you want to change the affix in any way or change the item in any way with runes, you can at any point. Keep in mind when you're upgrading, always use glyphs of hope when doing things like upgrading this tier 1 to a tier 5. And always pick up your affix shards because you never know when you're going to need them. So yeah, that kind of concludes my little crafting tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed, and hope you guys enjoy Last Epoch as much as I do. Take care.